All right, welcome back. No, this is I don't even know what episode we on now, man. I don't even know anymore. It just we just keep doing them, keep doing them, keep doing them, and then
Man, they
oh
ain't gonna stop, so why count them? Just
yeah,
go.
for real.
People
But
breathe,
this
as long
is
as people doing good things in a hobby, as long as there's people inspiring, we're out here.
definitely so everybody. This is Jake, one part of Just Geckos UK. Jake, why don't you go ahead and just tell us how you got into the hobby? You said you do this with your dad, right?
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's
So how did all that start?
whew, I think it's more like father son kind of thing.
Hmm.
When I was like really little, my dad was proper into the geckos. Then gave it all up, and then I remember as a like when I was about probably like 10 or 11, I was like, "Dad, I want a pet," and he was like, "Right, you want a gecko?" And I remember there was a big conversation with my mum. She was like, "No, you'll go crazy with the geckos again." My dad was like, "It's just be one." And then 15 years later, we're where we are now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But we always kind of went out, and when everyone was on holiday, went, gecko hunting. Would look around, lights and try to catch like house geckos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. So
Yes.
so with your cyrtodactylus, so we're going to be talking about cyrtodactylus today. So which species do you keep?
So we keep the Johanna, the Trideus, and the Tacantis. That's what we're keeping at the moment. I've kept other
Hmm.
species in the past, like
Okay.
I know you worked with the Nibosia, didn't you?
Yeah, I work with those right now.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've worked with them in the past.
Okay.
They're nice species. Yeah, so working with them and worked
Nice.
with Chronodax Sealock as well in the past.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I do like those.
yeah, they're cool.
So yeah. So we just can't get a whole lot. Well, most of the stuff we get over here that are cyrtodactylus are mainly wild caughts. So it's
Okay.
just hard. Yeah, so it's hard to find some good captive bred ones of like Cyrtodactylus elox or Cyrtodactylus nebulosus. I mean, I did get a CBB pair from what was it? Richie the Gecko King.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so thank God because that he has a lot of stuff. So anytime I like hit him, I'm like, hey, what do you got in this genus? He's like, hey, I got this and this. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we start, I'm getting these questions. Do you do a lot of herping over there, or do you go out of country for it?
We just do it like when we go on holiday abroad, you know,
Yeah.
or if we, especially down like the east coast, in the UK, there's like quite a lot of like common like no like wall geckos you get in Italy and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of them, so we try to catch the like common lizards and grass
Okay.
snakes, stuff like that. So, well, you can. I mean, in the UK, there's not really many reptile species here
Okay.
at all, really. But
All right.
no, a lot of what we do is just what we keep as a hobby,
Yeah.
really, with what we got. So
All
yeah.
right. Cool. So
Where do you
what
where do
made
you
you? Wait.
where do you get your geckos from? Like, are they imported? Like, do you have the same import laws that we have? Like, can you deal with countries that we can't?
Well, I think we go to Europe. We travel over to Europe, and that's where we get a lot of our rarer geckos, to be honest. And yeah, like you got to follow certain laws with like importing and stuff, like CITES. We don't touch CITES stuff because it's too much hassle with paperwork.
All right,
You
that's
know,
what I'm about. It's just
yeah,
as
like
too, you know.
yeah, it's real pain. I knew a guy quite recently. He, got a load of CITES free stuff, and they never actually sent him the paperwork for any of it, so he missed the chance for importing them and stuff. But yeah, so a lot of like there's a lot. I mean, there's quite a few good geckos in the UK already, but a lot of like our rarer stuff we kind of get from Europe. Really,
Okay.
was bit of a trip. So, but we don't deal with it ourselves. We just courier, you
Okay.
know.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So no, like I said, what made you decide to kind of start working with those Cyrtodactylus? And also, I mean, are they well represented over in the UK and in Europe, or do you guys have to get a lot of that
Mm,
wild caught stuff in as well?
I'd say that in Europe they're quite well established. I would say. But in the UK, there's not really handful of people kind of working with these species really. But that's growing, you know. And how we got into it, we started off with the Yahunga first, and that was just for a friend. He was quite into it all, and he was coming out of the Yahunga, and he said, "Oh, you know, I've got a present for both of you." So we had a look, and we kind of really fell in love with them, Yahunga straight away. And then he got the Nibosia as well. So we started working with them in like 2020, just before COVID, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, he had some quite good stuff, so it was quite nice to get them from him. And then the rest of the stuff we've kind of just got from Europe, from a couple of our friends over there who are into it all. But what's quite fortunate about the species we keep, because they're from like India and Sri Lanka, there's not many wild caught really. I'd say a lot of it is just captive bred, to be honest.
Nice.
But a lot of the other species of cryodactylus, you know, especially like the Malaysian ones, they're all like wild caught, aren't they? So I'd say in the UK that you'll get a shipment in and quite a few people will work with them, but then eventually they don't seem to. I think the UK market's very hard. It's very like different to Europe. A lot of people are into like their morphs and the more common geckos. It's a starting point. That's what I'm going to say. It's not a bad thing. It's a starting point. I'd say probably in the last 2 years that people are more interested in different gecko species. So you're seeing like more so now. I mean, there was an import not that long ago from Malaysia that's come in, and quite a few people are working with them now and trying to breed them. Was quite nice to see. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So the hobby in the UK is it's very different to Europe. You know,
Okay.
it's all a lot of people deal with your kind of crested geckos, leopard geckos, that kind of stuff. Well, it's not a terrible thing, but people I think are a bit scared of. I think people look at geckos that are a bit unusual and think they're hard to breed or hard to keep. But, I mean, you know, like the Yahunga are indestructible, to be honest with you. They're a real hardy species. I would say that they're probably easier to breed than mossy geckos, really.
Good to know.
Yeah, so I think that people in the UK are just a bit scared of trying different things, you know?
I think that's everywhere as well. I mean, even in the US, we have the same thing where they're hesitant on trying something new because there's no real information, right? But once you find those people that do have that information, like you said, they're almost bulletproof, right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well. You just got to do a lot of reading, haven't you, on stuff?
And I mean, that's what this podcast is for. To highlight those species that people don't know about that, they're easy. They're just as easy as keeping the cresses, easy as keeping a chihuahua or a leopard gecko. It's just a little bit of time, a little bit of research. Find the right people to talk to, and you're good. You're golden.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You got to. I don't understand why people don't share information more often. I find it boggling, really. If people ask me the right questions and like ask me how do I keep this species, I kind of give them everything I know, you know, because I'd rather someone work with the species and succeed than them get disheartened and move on, you know. But no, they're definitely a cool species to work with. So yeah.
So all right. So I mean, so most of your cyrtodactyls that you have right now, do they follow those same do they have like the same parameters, or are they different? Like say, I only have the nebulosus, so I was told to keep them around 80 Fahrenheit, which is I think maybe around like 25 Celsius, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then I have a cooler side of, in the 70s, like between like 15 and 19 Celsius, right? But I've been noticing that they stay predominantly on my hot side, to get a little bit more heat. Because when I was reading, I was reading up on them, and because they're from India, so I was pretty much I pulled the weather app and I was like, all right, what's the weather like over there? And then I started trying to find some YouTube videos, which it wasn't much. There is a guy that does a lot of photography that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I was getting ideas on how to create their whole ecosystem once I'm finally ready to do that. Right now they're in probably like a 10 or 12 quart bin. It's laid out with some empty soil, leaves, sticks, branches, big water bowl because I was told that they like to sit in the water as well.
Right,
So
okay.
that's what I'm going with right now. And I put some isopods in there too, just so I want to see if they have those foraging instincts as well. Let those kick
Mm,
in, like so whenever they do kind of get hungry in between feedings, they can find some isopods or something to eat.
yeah. That's interesting you say that, because when we got the Nebosias, I done the exact same. I looked on the weather app and I looked where they'd like distributed and tried
Hmm.
to home in on the temperatures to keep them. So yeah, when you said that, I thought, I've definitely done that before.
Yeah. Well,
um,
and try to do that with everything I look at. Try to when I keep them,
yeah. Well, there's no
because it's like
information on the Nebosia at all.
exactly.
That is
Yeah.
and we had to learn the hard way. So like how we used to do them. I actually found, so like we kept ours in probably like 18-litre rubs. They're like the old clip lids ones.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, we kept them in there. I mean, temperature wise, we probably had them in the hot spot around 28. Probably in my room, it probably went up to like 30 peaks. And it had them in the cold spot about 20. But what I did find with them, what was really important, is airflow is really
Hmm.
important with them. Because I found that if you kept them in like a rub or something like that, that they wouldn't get the airflow in, and that
Hmm.
they seem to struggle with that. Like I found that over a long period of time, especially with like obviously I'd have the air like holes and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, like we in the end cut the top out and just replaced it with complete mesh.
Okay. Yeah.
But I noticed how you guys do it over there. You keep it a lot more damper. You keep it on like peat a lot of the time, didn't you? Quite damp peat.
Hmm.
But when we kept the Nebosia, I found that we kept them on dry sands, and then on the cold side, would like stack it up with like probably like 2 inches, three
Okay.
inches of like peat and sand mix. But I found humidity for some reason with the Nebosias they really struggled with. But I don't know if that was down to genetics, to be honest,
Hmm.
because the gene pool within Europe at the time really kind of got a bit crap, to be honest.
Okay.
So we found the ones that we originally had that were like wild caught, they seemed to be really good, and the offspring from that were quite good. But the other ones we got weren't just that strong, if you know what I mean, genetically.
Yeah.
And you can normally tell as well because they get babies after about like 9 months. They get like bug eyes, so their eyes will
Mm.
be bigger than they should be, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's
Kind of
normally
like
a
a
sign.
palmettos corn snake.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Just look a bit big
Yeah.
in their head.
Okay.
And normally with that, it's a prime example that they're not that good genetically. But yeah, so that's how we done the Nebosias. But like production wise, as soon as they start laying, they lay eggs pretty consistently, I'd say.
Yeah.
Um, Cooling them down. I found they no like Australian species, they need like a good drop in the winter. I found a
Yeah.
lot of these species from India don't need a drop at all. Um, so we probably keep in the winter 22 to 24
Okay.
degrees. Because I found this with the hunger especially, if you dropped them down to like 18 degrees, what we try to aim for in our room, they seem to go off their food, as most things do in brumation, but they want to keep producing eggs. So they just completely deteriorate, you know?
Hmm.
So with all of the cryodactylus species we keep them in the winter time between 24 to 22 degrees on the hot spot, and then cool spots probably gets to about 20.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I
So
mean
that.
the hunger are fairly similar with care as well. Like, but they're a little. We use a little bit. So same again, 18-litre rub, 2-3 inches of like peat on the cold side, and like sand on the hot hotspot because we use heat pads a lot of the time.
Mm.
And we also found so similar temperatures, so like 28 degrees, cold side 22. But the Yahunga, I would say, are probably more interesting out the whole species because they talk to each other. So you know how the Nebosias would call, wouldn't they? Like the males, they call to talk to each other. If you keep a group of females together, they actually talk and not talk, but they sing to each other. And well, I'd done it as a bit of an experiment. I had 4 females all in one tank together, and I took a female out, and their note of their singing or chirping or whatever you want to say completely changed, and then the one that was on its own sung completely differently to the other 3. It sounds really weird, but if you ever get a chance, try it. It's really weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
the females all communicate to each other, and they kind of look after each other a little bit. You keep 2 or 3 females together. I wouldn't say they're a communal gecko. I just think that's just how they are.
Yeah.
But they are as well, like the Yahunga. We don't do this because we haven't got the space, but if you can give them opportunities to climb, so if you kept them in like an arboreal tank, they will climb right up to the top.
Okay. All right.
Where the Nebosias are more of an arboreal species, I'd say. They not arboreal, you know what I mean? They stick on the
terrestrial?
floor.
Yeah, terrestrial.
Yeah. So they'll stick more on the floor. Yeah, and the Yahunga as well, with the eggs, I find because they lay a lot of eggs, calcium wise, it's really important to keep on. Same with the Nebosia as well, is you got to keep on top of the calcium.
Yeah.
So we use. Sorry, what was you gonna say?
I would say right now I'm using Rapaci Calcium Plus for my nebulosas. Eventually they will get on. Once I get my enclosure made for them, because I have a guy that makes all my PVC enclosures, so I'm gonna have that where I can have my UVB in there and probably some LEDs for some plants. But so once they get to the UVB, I'll be doing my whole Arcadia routine that I do with my Chihuahuas and my Stropheras, where it's every other week on Mondays they get the Calcium Pro, then the Earth Pro A on Wednesdays, and then Fridays is the Revitalized D3, and then the week after that it's just Earth Pro A Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then kind of cycle it through that.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, we use the Repeshe High Cal.
Okay.
We find that's probably the best. For us anyway, that is the best supplement we find. Because I've tried the low cal before, and I've heard stories of people breeding Schrops or Spherus and their season failing completely because they were just using the low cal.
Okay.
So the high cal's more expensive, but that's what we use.
Yeah.
And supplying a dish of calcium is quite good, just normal calcium. But what I've heard this as well from a guy in Europe, that apparently they struggle licking the powdered calcium up. So what he does is he gets eggshells, collects them, grinds them up so they're more of a gritty paste, and they can eat the grit. What is obviously pure calcium.
That's smart though. Yeah.
Yeah. I've tried it, but it's just a lot of hassle, isn't it? To be honest. So I've heard that works for them, but we kind of just put calcium everywhere, because if it's everywhere, they can't go wrong. Yeah.
Are you running UVB on all your stuff, or just some?
No, we're not, to be honest. I think they would benefit with UVB, but it's just our room's so hot,
Yeah.
I've got Goniosaurus orientalis in my room.
Yeah. And they need it cool.
Yeah, and then I've got Cronodactylus agrophora that need it 35, 40 degrees in my room.
Oh wow! Oh,
so it is kind of a juggle.
Yeah. Are those cyrtodactylus on your IG page? Because I want to see what those actually look like.
Yeah. No, they giant Nibian ground geckos.
Oh, the Angola. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, agrophora. Yeah, I'm terrible with Latin names.
Yeah.
You know what any of them.
Yeah. But yeah, cool.
So these are your Angulivore?
Yeah, that's they're the ones. If you that's quite a cool one to watch, because it's it's them mating. So they're the South African form, or like they call it the Springbok form.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just introduced them, and she was quite keen.
Hey.
Yeah,
It's always fun to see how these geckos interact with each other, like different species. Like, no, we have chihuahuas, me and Aunt, so they do a lot of that head bobbing and shaking. Um, and then oftentimes, well, for me, I know once they mate, like my female doesn't want to have nothing to do with my male anymore. So, and he'll
yeah,
try to, like, he already learned his lesson because, like I said, he almost got his eye bitten out. Like, she
yeah,
had, like, the eye, mouth was like right here and had to stick my finger like right between her mouth and his eye to separate them. Oh man, but yeah, that was a scary day for me. And that was
yeah.
like literally probably like he already copulated once and he was trying to go again. And I was like, oh shit. Oof.
I could watch
Yeah.
this
Right.
all day. I could watch these guys interacting with each other all day. I mean,
Yeah.
they communicate, the way they, the way they peacock, like it's amazing, man. It's amazing. I mean, and every species does something a little different, like Jay said. It's
Yeah,
people are really missing out, man. People really do. Geckos in general, as diverse as the species is, there's just we're killing ourselves by keeping our collection so simple minded, I guess, if you will. Like so and so has this, so that must be what I'm keeping. Like there's so many, man. Look at your page, man. This is mind blowing, man. This is like National Geographic, dude. Like this is so
yeah,
cool. People don't know about him, and like we were talking about earlier, it's a shame because some of them are super,
Yeah.
tolerant of things. They're super easy to keep, and they just don't have the exposure. And I think that the lack of exposure is what puts that fear in people. People are like, nobody shares information, so they must be hard to keep. They, people have these stigmas, and they just don't know, man. They just don't know what they're missing out on.
yeah. It's almost like sometimes there's geckos that are like fashionable, isn't it?
Yeah,
And then
Yeah.
everyone kind of gets into that fashion, and then I know there's a big fashion with all the anoles, weren't there?
absolutely.
Quite
Yeah.
recently.
People lose
Yeah.
their own the capability to think for themselves. We talk to guests. I don't know who we were speaking to, someone, but we all kind of everybody that we gravitate to and gravitate towards us has this one thing in common. We follow what we like. We don't follow trends. We all like something a little different. They just happen to be geckos, but we don't care what everyone else is doing. We're focused on what we want to breed and see and work with and study and observe. I mean, it's and we want to share that with people, like we want people to know there's so much more than these trends. Look what happened to the crested gecko community. I mean, in a matter of the COVID time, those things went from having like 5 breeders to everyone and their mother has a uncle, an aunt, and a cousin that breeds these things, that has a crested gecko business. It's like there's so saturated, it's almost a shame. You have incredible animals that are selling for tiny little bits of money because there's so many of them.
Yeah,
And meanwhile, you got people like yourself with these geckos that nobody knows about, and I haven't seen more than 5 people with the collection like you. With a diverse collection as you do.
Hmm. Do you know? I heard one of our friends in Europe gave me the best bit of advice ever. Is he said you don't have to, when you get into a species, you don't just have to have 10 pairs to produce loads. He said sometimes it's better just having a pair, and then that's it. You know. And this guy, he works with like 60 species, but he just has a pair of things. You know.
Absolutely.
And I think that is, well, I think in the UK, like mindset, it's all like you've got to have like 5 pairs of things, and you've got to have big groups, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's always good to have 1 or 2 pairs, but
Yeah.
let's not go silly, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I got only a couple pairs of chihuahuas. I got a pair of Stropharis intermediates. I have I will have another pair of Stropharis ciliaris once my male gets up to age. And then, like I said, I got the pair of cyrtodactylus right now, but right now, I mean, my intermediates, they breed like cresties, so they just keep popping out eggs, and everything's hatching. Those are like some of the most strongest geckos I've ever worked with. Like once they hatch, they rarely anything bad happens. As long as I know, give them that good UVB and that heat, and they're pretty much golden.
Yeah.
So you worked with any Stropharis?
No, we had them, we kept them before.
Okay.
We kept we bred Tendacuda.
Okay. Nice.
Before all the, do you remember a while ago they used to, with the towels, they used to define them as different coloration on the towels in the eye.
Yeah, it was like a subspecies.
Yeah, and then they've all been mixed up now, so it's all
okay. Yeah,
so I couldn't tell you which ones they were specifically, but so we done quite well with them. I mean, we bred them in like 2018, I think 2018. We got Silver Eye one. That was quite an achievement for back then.
Nice.
Yeah, we had the intermediates as well. Did we have Strops Spring? No, sorry, we didn't have the intermediates. We had Strops Springiatus innonatus.
Okay.
Species.
Yeah.
That was a pure fluke when we was in Ham. A guy sold them as Springiatus, Strops Springiatus. And I picked them up and I thought, well, these don't look. And I was like, oh, we bought them because they were like fairly cheap. And then we got home and we actually spoke to a wildlife photographer in Australia because we had some. And we were like, these are not the same. And he identified them as Springiatus innonatus. Well, apparently, really rare, but they were dud. So it was quite cool. They were really cool species, actually.
Very cool.
I did like the Zephyrus. I think out the smartest ones out of all of them are the Tendacudas. I found they were more intelligent than the rest. But yeah, that was my experience with them.
Nice.
So,
awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
Insane for so, man, I'm like, I could barely pronounce my own name 3 days out of the week. Just spit in Latin. I'm like, jeez. That's awesome.
So for for the cyrtodactylus, so for your breeding, so when does breeding season start for you? And then like, how do you you just pretty much cool now? Do you really do like a full blown brumation, or do you still feed just feed a little bit lighter, make the temperatures a little bit lower?
I'd say for the Trideus and the Trideus. I didn't actually go through the Geckolia and Cryodactylus, Trideus, and Decanthus. How you keep them? But for them, you need to keep them much lower temperatures. So when it comes to like brumation periods, the Yahunga we keep at like 24, 22 in the winter time. And then for like the Trideus, we drop them to 23 to 20 degrees in like the winter. But the Decanthus, we cool them down to 18 degrees for 6 weeks. Well, we just got told to by one of our friends, and to be honest with you, I found it sounds like it worked, and it feels like it was the right thing to do. But I had a pair that still produced eggs during that period, so I don't really think that they need like a deep brumation period. To be honest, I think they just need a slow drop in temperature. But yeah, like the I keep calling them Geckolia because they were instead of Cryodactylus, they were Geckolia, weren't they? But they've now been reclassified. But yeah, like the Trideus and the Decanthus, we kind of keep them below 30 degrees constantly. Because because above that they kind of get a bit too hot and die, unfortunately.
So cool.
Okay.
But mating wise, I found the Yahunga to kind of try to stimulate breeding and stuff. The Yahunga, you can kind of just have males, like one male to like 2 or 3 females, and all year round, then he kind of does all right. Does what he needs to do. The Decantis, you've got to have the males need to be bigger or similar size to your biggest female.
Okay.
Females, for them, they get quite big, so you need to have quite a few males, because they grow, like, some are quite big, some are quite small, and if you've got a really small male, quite a big female, he's too intimidated by her.
Yeah.
So we kind of have quite a few males just as a spare, for females quite big or not quite doing it.
Yeah.
So the sizing for the Decantis is quite important. But for the Trideus, I found the males get lazy, like real lazy. So if you keep like a pair together, first clutch of eggs, are fertile, and the second clutch, it's not. He just doesn't seem to consistently do it. So you can kind of swap males or take him out for a little bit and then reintroduce him.
Mhm.
I think ideally you could keep them separate, I think, but we kind of keep stuff together because you want to see how they interact, So yeah, so for breeding, that's really it. Really, they're really simple. If you want me to be honest with you, they're not. I'd
Yeah.
say it's that complicated of species, really.
So for like your group settings, or for like your having them in the groups, how big of a enclosure or bin are you using for that? So they can make sure they got space enough to get away from each other.
Yeah. So
18.
we keep pairs in probably like 18, like pairs or trios in 18-litre rubs.
Okay.
But we normally put quite a few different hides in there. I found the best thing to use for hides, actually, because I've tried like bark, I've tried terracotta pots, but I found for like especially geckos that need humidity is plastic pots. I know it don't look
Okay.
pretty, but if you put like plastic pots on the damp side, it really holds humidity much more than
Okay.
like a terracotta pot. Doesn't
So
look pretty.
like a deli container or like something to get your lunch meat from, like
Yeah,
that kind
or
of a
like
bin.
a spray can lid. That's
Okay.
what I use.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. All
Yeah,
right.
just cut a little hole. It don't look pretty, but it works,
Yeah.
And I think with these kind of species, it's got to work. It's not got to look pretty,
Yeah.
Oh, that one's
Um,
cool, man. Those are the ones I was talking about, Jay. I love them. Oh man.
Yeah.
What's
oh,
that right there?
binary geckos.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
that? Jay?
What's
Pardon?
that?
What's the name of that species right there?
Heteronotia benoi, right?
Yeah, binary or bion.
One. Yeah.
Oh, those
Yeah.
are
They're part though. They're parthenogenic.
what?
Yeah. So if you get
Yeah.
one, you can have two. You're gonna get two, you can have four, all that stuff,
Where are
right?
they from? Those are also from Indonesia? From
Australia.
Oh,
No,
really?
they're from Australia. Yeah, it seems like you have a lot of different stuff, man. Like you said, you have what, about 20 different species you're working with currently.
Wow.
Yeah, about 20.
Wow.
So,
What's your top 5 that you currently have?
um, well, I don't know. I think if you asked me and you asked my dad, it would be completely different. Um, I know what my dad's favourite species will be, and that is a pictus gecko. He loves them.
Nice.
Really?
That's it. Wally will like that.
Hey, shout out to my Ollie. Love it.
Yeah, I would say my probably favourite are the Orientis, so Japanese cave geckos.
Okay.
That's up there. I'd say the Decantis are actually up there for my kind of favourite species. Chronodactylus agrophora, they're another ones. The giant Nibian geckos.
Yeah.
And then the Putsias, the Putsii. The
The cyrtodactylus ones. The
yeah,
cyrtodactylus.
they
Yeah,
are
I like those. I definitely like those because they're arboreal, correct?
and they're
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
Yep, the most coolest collections I've seen, man. That's an amazing collection.
Yes.
Oh, cheers.
Very jealous of what you have right now.
Yeah, I'm not a jealous person, but wow, I'd do something like this, man. A couple pairs of a lot of geckos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The thing is, though, is we started from a very humble beginning. You know,
yeah.
we were breeding crested geckos and gargle geckos.
Look at
You
that.
know, pictus geckos. We've always bred them, kept them.
Yeah.
You know, so
Do you and your dad vend shows, or do you just keep them just as a hobby?
it's just a hobby, but we do shows, obviously. So we do
Yeah.
like in the UK, and like I say, we go to Europe.
Yeah. And what's
But yeah,
is like the ham show like your big? Do you do ham show?
yeah.
Yeah.
Where's
How
that
big it like?
show?
What's
Pardon?
that at?
The ham show is in Germany.
Yeah.
Now is that is the ham show kind of compared to like our Tinley? Is it like that big of a show?
That's what I hear.
It is a big show. Like
Yeah.
in comparison to shows in the UK, it is like, you know, it's so big in comparison.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's where
I
you
mean,
get to find all the uncommon stuff. Like for me, like if I go to Tinley, I'm finding all the uncommon reptiles I can. Like if I go to my local shows, it's ball pythons, crested geckos, leopard geckos, bearded dragons. So that's why I
yeah,
like going to the much bigger shows because you get to see a wide variety of things. Things that pique my interest.
yeah,
Like this, like if I saw something like this at the show, I would buy it just like that, just because I know nobody has it.
yeah. Oh, he actually got some babies from them Micropedis the other day.
Really
Quite
nice.
exciting. Yeah.
How do you think
Yes.
these species? Do they vary from species to species, or
Yeah.
how do incubation processes differ with them? I guess I should say.
I found now actually the best way to keep anything that's like desert species, obviously keep them hotter. But I found the best way is to keep them just in dry sand and don't even offer humidity.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, what we used to keep, we done quite well with them is Pachydaxus rangii and or rangii, however you want to pronounce it. And we often found that the humidity would like get into the dry sand; it would like rot the egg. So, and this is what we always do. We always try new things. So we're trying just this season anything that is like desert species, just in a cricket tub with just sand, and that's it. And for like the Putsii, the Agrophora, works really well. You know.
Very.
Yeah.
But
So
then
what
like
about the Cyrtodactylus? How would you incubate those eggs?
well, it varies. So like the hunger, that temperature
Mhm.
sex determined. So
Okay.
you would to hatch females, you'll incubate at 24 to 22 degrees. But you're losing half your eggs straight off the bat.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's to get females. But if you incubate at like 28 degrees, 26, 28, you're hatching males and some females, but you're mostly male heavy.
Okay.
So that lower temperature, you get your females, but you obviously lose at least half your eggs.
Damn.
But for the hunger, they're very prolific. So it's not a terrible thing, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah. Well, how many
Um,
collections are you laying per year for you?
lost count. They honestly, they rival pictus geckos on how prolific they are.
Wow.
To be honest with you, once they get going, and that's why
Okay.
I keep
Yeah.
like that's why I said earlier about calcium. It's really important.
Yeah.
Stay on top of the trideus. I mean, they only lay 3-4 clutches a year.
Okay.
I incubate them probably at 24 to 26 degrees, maybe 27 if it gets hot. But I kind of keep on that lower spectrum.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure yet if they're genetic or temperature sex determined, because I incubated last year. We've had real issues with incubators. No, like you do the whole like homemade ones with the heat pads and
Oh yeah.
all
Yeah.
of that. Yeah, so we've had real issues with that. So last year, our season, we produced quite a few males. So I haven't got the actual facts and figures yet to say that they are temperature, sex determined or genetic. And the Decantis, I mean, this is the first year like we've got eggs. So yeah, we're incubating at like 20 degrees to 22 degrees, like quite low on temperature wise.
Interesting.
But I don't know how our season's going to go because I cooked all my eggs with one of the incubators. The thermostat jammed on, and I went in there and it was 45 degrees. I was like, no.
Man, got some
So
fried eggs.
yeah, that's why you can't have one incubator. You need to have 3 or 4.
Yeah, no, I'm
So
still working with the one I got. I got one of those Exoterra Incubator Pro. It's not like the one that looks like the refrigerator, but it kind of just looks like a regular like a hoverbator. That's what it kind of looks like. But it does it. You put water on the bottom of that, and it has like a little spout or that sprays up when the humidity drops below a certain percentage. So
okay,
I keep my humidity around 80% in there. So once it like I open it up, it drops to like 60% real quick because I live in Arizona in a really dry state. So,
right, yeah,
but that it'll start spraying real quick. So it, but I mean, I still have everything in like so my chihuahuas. They're in just uh just a little container with some eggs, sphagnum moss, and some Rapache hatch. And then my Stropharis, they're in uh, same thing, just no spag, just Rapache hatch. And I mean, right now they're both in there because I incubate my chihuahuas around like between like 80 and 82 degrees.
right, okay.
And yeah, and they hatch between like 70 to like 90 days. And then
Oh, right,
the
yeah.
Stropharis, they hatch around like 50, 55 days.
I think
Oh,
it's
right.
crazy that an embryo can turn into a full blown animal in that short of a time, man. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
about you guys, but it blows my mind. Every time an egg hatches, I'm like,
Yeah.
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 I
I
don't
think
know. I
like, yeah.
don't know how people keep track of their dates with their eggs. I
Oh, it's
honestly
called,
find it amazing when someone's
oh,
like, it's been in
right
there
here.
for.
This. I use my
I don't know
phone.
how you do it. Uh,
I put it on my calendars, put on my Google calendars, boom, 55 days. And then like, or actually I'll put it like for like 50 days. So I get like a 5-day buffer. And then
right.
now I'm starting to check daily instead of checking like every week, looking it up. So I was like, all right, once my calendar goes off, then I know, all right, we need to start checking.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
think like this because I just had some intermediates hatch this past week, and I actually caught one actually hatching out of the egg for the first time, which was
Oh yeah.
first time that was a hell of an experience. I'm like, oh my god, because usually
Mm.
I catch them, they're already out the egg, they're not even trying, they're just running around all crazy. But this first time I actually caught them like coming out the egg. I didn't have my phone on me, otherwise I would have recorded it. But I was like, I just didn't want to miss this moment.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's a
hey,
good
Yeah,
idea. Take it on your phone.
how do
Um,
yeah.
how do the eggs differ from your species? Are they like heavily calcified eggs, like a bird egg, or are they softer? How are these eggs of these species?
for like cryodactylus, they are hard shell eggs, not soft shelled. Um, and incubation from then is quite long, to be honest. Like the Nebosias, I think are quite quick. I think they're like 3, maybe 4 months. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Whew.
But the Yohunga
That's-
are at least 6.
Wow.
Yeah, and Trideus are the same, and Decantis I've heard are the same, but I've not had the proof of the pudding yet.
Wow, I did not expect that at all. I thought
Yeah.
they'd been a little bit quicker.
Do any
No,
of
yeah.
them put their eggs together? Do they bury them? How do they?
So I find that Yohunga lay their eggs, they lay in like the cool side of the tank, in the peat that we use. But they lay quite close to the surface. So
Mhm.
probably like 1/4 inch, like off the surface, where the Trideus just lay straight at the bottom. But I'm convinced if you put like a tub that is like, 6 inches, they'll bury it right at the bottom. I'm convinced of that. But yeah, and the Decantis, they lay, I'd say they bury their eggs, but not, it's kind of mid-range, really. But egg size-wise, the Yohunga eggs are quite small, to be honest with you. They're probably like similar
Like
size
Tic
of,
Tac.
yeah, Tic Tac kind
Yeah,
of
like
size.
Wow.
Like Viper Gecko egg size,
yeah.
Where the Cantus are quite bigger, so they'll be like fingernail kind of size, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the Trideus are bigger than the Yohunga eggs, but not as big as Cantus eggs. So probably like 5 mil, I'd say. But they're quite big eggs for the gecko, for the size of the gecko. What I find quite amazing. Like the females look like right sacks of potatoes when they're ready to lay. But at first, the Trideus are really fast.
Yeah.
Do they all lay clutches of 2 eggs? Are they all 2 clutch eggs?
Yeah, all 2 clutch eggs.
And
Yeah.
so they don't glue them, do they? Or are they?
No,
No. Okay.
don't
Good.
glue. They just lay straight in the soil.
Okay.
But I found the Yohunga are quite prone to double, what's the right word?
Double
Like
clutch.
having 2 clutches of eggs in them at the same time.
Oh wow.
Really?
What's
Is
not
that
good,
because?
obviously.
Oh, I would say, is that because they take so long to hatch that they need to have more come out?
I don't know really. I find it's only on certain females. So like every so like if you like have quite a few females, every so often, probably like every 1 in 8, you get one female that decides to always have like 2 clutches
Okay.
in her at the same
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
What's a worry, to be honest, because no gecko
Yeah.
should have that in
Yeah.
her.
Do you usually if that happens, do you let her like take some time off before you like maybe separate her from the group or anything?
No, I don't believe in like separating geckos when they're in that thing, because I find that if you separate them out, you're stressing them out, taking them into another environment.
Okay.
So what we'd do is we'd put them in water. So like get a little cricket tub, fill it full of like warm, not warm, but you know what I mean, like slightly warmish water,
Yeah.
and put the gecko in, and that just encourages them to lay.
Okay.
But yeah, quite often they go off food when that happens, so it's quite a worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not that common. But the Yohunga are prone to that. I'd say more so than any of the other species we keep.
Okay.
Very interesting.
But yeah, and the babies are tiny.
Well,
Really
I'm
small.
using tiny ones already. I got these intermediate. Some things they're like this big when they hatch out. And it's like,
Yeah.
all right, now I gotta find food for them, which is, man,
I-
it is so hard trying to find food for them.
I saw a
'Cause-
picture of limited edition geckos page. You posted a baby Urodactyloides. It was
Oh,
literally
next to a dime.
small as a dime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that thing's dimes are like probably like that.
So you
So
got to feed in like pinheads or isopods or something. What do you use to feed these babies?
I'd say
God,
probably
it's so
just
tiny.
small crickets or firebrats. I recommend firebrats for anyone.
Yes.
They are the food source because they're
Are
high, so high.
firebrats,
What
are they
are they?
easy to breed?
Are
Have you never heard of firebrats? They are
Hold on. I will show you a
honestly,
firebrat. Hold
they are the
on.
best things ever. They're so easy to breed.
I never seen them for sale either. They sell them over here, Jay?
Yeah.
Huh.
Hold on. Let me.
I think I might know now. Yeah, okay. I seen somebody post this. They had them in a big stuffed up bag of paper, and they
Yeah.
were okay.
Yeah, they are the way of breeding, keeping geckos that require a lot of calcium. They are the thing,
Oh,
you know. So you can keep them in. I mean, people who breed them in Europe have them in big containers, but we just use 12-litre rubs, fill them full of egg crate, feed them fish food like fish flake,
Mm,
um, or you can feed them fish pellets, but they're not as keen on the pellets. And then
okay.
you just get like a container, fill it full of water, and put mesh over the top of it, and then just get them up to like 35 degrees. Above 45 starts killing them, but about 35, 40 degrees.
Okay.
Um, and you'll put like a cotton wool in the where the indentations of the egg crate, so they lay their eggs in there.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then once the colony gets going, they just multiply.
that's
Yeah.
on man. How big do they get in comparison to like a cricket? Do they get as big as like a banded cricket?
Uh, I'd say smaller than a banded cricket, probably like 10 mil. So
Okay.
only like that, the big adults. But what's quite
Okay.
beneficial with them, because they're like they a lot of the time will stay quite small, size of like pinhead crickets, that kind of
Yeah.
size. For really small geckos, they're really good.
Yeah. And they're
Um,
and they're pretty fast and they move a lot too, right?
yeah, yeah. For
Okay.
like the binary geckos, they're like how you rear the babies up because they're really
Okay.
hard. They find it hard with crickets. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, fibrats. If you keep like small geckos, they are the ones.
Yeah.
Because we've tried before with fruit flies and bean weevils, and they're a lot of palaver, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Mhm. I
But
mean, I'm
with a
Yeah.
fibrat,
a variety of
bang them
different.
in. Sorry.
I'm all for feeding a variety of foods. I think the more foods, the more of a variety we can offer them, the better. I mean, in the
Yeah,
wild, I assure you, none of these species of any gecko that we keep is eating one food source. It's that's awesome that you taught me this because I'm gonna try to incorporate them into my collection. I mean, that's it's great information right there.
yeah,
Yeah. I think I probably feed about I know I do silkworms, I do super worms, mealworms, dubias, red runners, crickets. I don't do fruit flies because they just don't. I tried feeding fruit flies to my stropheras when they were little babies. They just did not take them at all, and then the fruit flies just got everywhere. So I was like, we're done with this stuff. But yeah, those are like generally my six go tos. I do want to start doing those uh fire brats. Keep I find them online and I just never order them. But it's definitely something I do want to look into because I think that worked well with what I have
Send me a
right
link
now.
if you can, Jay, at some point later on today. Send me a link to them because I don't know how to spell that or where to find them. But
For sure, I got you.
hey,
Oh, the other thing with them is you need to put sellotape around the top of your container
okay,
because they can climb glass.
yeah, okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you put like
That's a good
sellotape,
one.
yeah, I thought I'd better say because they breed in our lizard room, just everywhere.
Yeah.
But the other
Okay.
thing as well, they don't eat eggs. You know,
Oh, that's
where
good.
if you use
Yeah.
like isopods, they quite often eat eggs, don't they? But fibrats just can't get their teeth into it, so they're really quite good
Okay.
in that respect.
Nice. So when you
Yeah,
when you're feeding these fire brats, are you just putting them in like a little cup or something, or you just kind of like throw them into the cage and let them go after them, let them run around?
just dash them in. I've
All
tried
right. Yeah.
dusting them, but it's too much. It's too much hassle. Um, I found the small cryodactylus species. Um, they were quite often like fire brats over
Mhm.
like wood lice or springtails, over any of that. They quite like the fire brats
Okay.
as a food source.
Nice.
Yeah, the adults aren't so keen. You know, I think they're a bit
So
fast.
so I've been definitely interested in these Hemidactylus triters. Now, are those? I've heard a couple different things. So, are they more arid or are they kind of subtropical?
They're indestructible, is what they are.
I
Um,
like that. I like to hear that.
because when we first kept them, we kept them like completely dry as a bone, um, with sand, and then
Hmm.
we got some off a friend, and she suggested to keep them more tropical. So I've
Hmm.
actually got two pairs in two completely different setups, and they
Nice.
both produce fine. They both do well. So I don't really know the answer, to be honest with you. So we have got
It's
like
kind.
one pair's all got like thick peat at the bottom, you know. Um, they like to hide, so I don't use cork tubes. I use egg crate with them,
Yeah.
purely because of trying to get eggs, and they're a bit feisty. And the others we just keep with sand, and then like a lay pot, what they use quite often,
Yeah.
just with peat. But so yeah, they're quite indestructible, I'd say. So you can have them dry out at times, but then I think personally, I think they prefer the humidity.
Okay.
Um, so I would recommend keeping them more humid. But
Mm.
if you let them completely dry out, it doesn't really harm them. They're fairly
Okay.
quite robust geckos, I'd say.
Yeah. So
Um,
when you say feisty, you mean like they're a little protective of like their eggs and stuff like that,
yeah,
or did?
yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh,
harvested, like if you're trying to get eggs out, they're it's quite funny
they're
because the male will try to attack you because you're in his area, you're in
okay.
his like territory, but
Yeah.
the female isn't really bothered until you get near the eggs, and then she will bite you. You know, so it's a bit of a handful when you're trying to do it. You've got two geckos on the end of your finger, and you're thinking, "Oh no, try not to crush this egg in my hand." Um, but they're
Nice.
quite a nice species, and they don't eat their young as well.
Okay.
So you
So
can let the babies hatch out in there, and the males look after the babies.
nice.
I can't
What?
say
So
they herd food like tokay geckos, but I know
yeah,
that they're. I know
but
they look after them. You know,
yeah, so they're somewhat family oriented, and
yeah.
that's
What's
really
it?
cool. So, yeah.
I think they're from India. I think
Okay.
I
Oh
can't
yeah, it
remember.
says yeah, South Asia right here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nice. So I have
yes.
this
I
notion that like certain species will come from a region, and within that region, there may be 10 different microclimates, right? It may be hot on the south end and damp and cool in the north end, and the same species spans that range, so they have the ability to adapt to different microclimates. I mean, I think that's what makes certain geckos bulletproof. So I'm just listening to what you're telling me, and I'm running what I do in my head, thinking about
yeah,
what makes them this way. And I'm assuming that they come from a range that has multiple microclimates and they can adapt fairly well. And India
yeah,
makes that's cool.
yeah,
yeah. That makes sense. Really, India's quite a. I mean, there's
Yeah,
quite a range of um,
yeah,
sure is.
different habitats for sure.
Sure
yeah.
is. What are
So
these?
do the go ahead,
No, what are these
Jake.
guys? What are these
Oh,
species right here?
Oh,
these
so yeah, they're
are
the Cryodactylus yohunga, or they were called Geckolia, but up to
yeah.
this year they've been reclassified as Cryodactylus. Um, but yeah, that's them as babies. You know, they are that small.
Yeah,
Hmm. Is there a
yeah. I
common
will.
like what would someone like me call it? What would I look for that? What is the common name?
Bow-fingered geckos.
Ah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's quite a few of them are classified as bow-fingered geckos, or
yeah.
I think the Tridis are like spotted ground gecko, something
Ah.
like that. Um, I have to
Well,
admit, I'm really bad. I just deal with Latin names. I can't
yeah.
keep on top of.
All you guys
Yeah,
these crazy big collections do, but I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's a lot of people like me out here that have no idea what they mean, what those names mean. And we wouldn't until we get into the species.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was just looking up because I wanted to see how many species of cyrtodactylus there actually was. I counted, it was like over 300.
Yeah.
And so it just blew my mind, like, why do we not have more of these species in the hobby? Like, why are we always getting wild caught stuff, from Southeast Asia, and instead of having more prevalent in the hobby? It's something I'm still trying to figure that out, because
I think for the Malaysian species, they're notorious for being tricky to breed.
yeah, okay,
I think that's the thing with them is for a lot of them from like Malaysia, Asia, that kind of more on that Malaysian side where you see the imports coming from, they are hard to breed. Like the Cryodaxis pegasus, they're like notorious for being hard to breed. But I found the species from India and Sri Lanka are actually quite, I'd say, as easy to breed as a viper gecko. They're
yeah.
quite. Well, I just can't get my head around it. I just think people just don't know they're out there. I think that's
Yeah,
the thing.
that's what it is too. I think that's part of it. Like, they don't know what, because anytime I post, like, in my local groups, like my local Facebook groups, they're like, "What is this? Oh my god, I've never seen this before in my life." It's like, then I start going on about this is what it is, this is where they're from. They're like, it's like, where can I find them? I was like,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah, I
Well,
represent that group of people, man. I hate to say it, and I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but I represent the guys out here that have just not been exposed, man. Like, I have never had the opportunity to see these things. I think they're amazing. I'm totally intrigued. But if it wasn't for guys like you, we wouldn't. All I see is crested geckos, Leachianus. I mean, once in a while, I guess you could say like a Malaysian cat eye geckos. I mean, but it's a lack of exposure. Us other guys out here, we go to what's, I guess, popular because that's what crosses our path. I mean, hopefully with podcasts like this and information like this, I mean, this is, we can expose these geckos, expose people to different species, how cool they are, how easy they are to keep. I mean, I'm totally blown away with what I'm seeing right now. I've probably never seen 80% of what's on this screen.
oh, thank you. Um, but I think with it all, I just think people, like I said earlier, I think when they look at geckos they've not heard of, I think they just think, oh, they're really hard to breed, and
Mm-hmm.
um, but I found species that are like anything that's not from Australia is pretty simple to breed in my mind.
Good.
Because Australia, you need to get it all right, didn't you, with the drops of the temperatures and
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah. There's
But
certain ones in there that it's really, you have to really cool them down. Like, we talked to Stephen Kerbo a few weeks back, and he has those Phylers Amnicola, and yeah, he's bringing those temps down to like 43 degrees Fahrenheit
right,
during their brumation. I was like, man, I don't know if I could do that. I'll
Crazy, I
have
know.
anxiety. Yeah, I'll have anxiety on that one.
I'm not sticking around anywhere it's 40 degrees.
yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
Do these Decanus, do they have eyelids? Because I mean, from the look of it, it looks like they're able to close their eyes, but I'm not sure.
uh,
Like a leopard gecko, where they like have
oh
the
yeah,
what?
yeah, they
Okay,
can do them. But I'll tell
okay.
you what, they squeal like pigs. They do. They
Really?
are, yeah, and it's quite freaky because you go in there and you're like start moving their stuff around, checking for eggs or whatever, and they're like, and you're like, oh, it's quite off putting. They're
Yeah,
harmless. They will never bite you. They'll never do anything. They just squeal like pigs, and it does scare you a little bit,
yeah.
just that
When these
initial.
breeding right there, do they use their tails? Do they use their tails when they're breeding?
They do it when they hunt.
Okay.
All of the like Indian and Sri Lankan species that I keep all
I'm
use
just
their tails to communicate in some way.
I'm just
Um,
noticing right now, man, that the geckos that use their tails have a different type of tail. That's I love that. I love that.
yeah, it's interesting because they then not so much the decanthus, they'll just do it when they hunt, so they like get excited and wave it
Yeah.
around. But the Yahunga, like females use it to talk to each other, I find. So like saying they use it to say back off or
Yeah.
come over here, boy, I want to be mated with today, you know.
So I
Yeah.
see the spot on the tip of this one's tail, and I'm wondering, again, I say this all the time, but Mother Nature is not stupid. There's a purpose for everything. There's a point in everything that nature does. So I'm curious if that spots on that tail, if it maybe uses a defense mechanism in the wild and flashes it to look like eyes, or it uses it to bait food, or I mean, it's my gears are turning, and any species that can make my gears turn, I'm super
Yeah.
interested.
No, they're a
Yeah.
cool species. It'd be interesting to see what they're actually like in the wild, you know.
Mm,
Actually go like herping out there and see it
yeah.
all.
Just to
Um,
watch what they do, it would help the hobby so much. It would help keeping them. Me and Jay, we have a habit of copying nature and not people. I don't want to know what a person does. I mean, I listen to it and stuff, but I base everything off of nature, what
yeah.
nature's doing, and then I make the adjustments to my little microclimate, if you will. But nature is what matters to me, what they're doing out there. And I think that it's the key to keeping some of these harder species alive in captivity.
Hmm. Yeah, you've got to replicate that, haven't you? It's
Oh,
but I
shit.
do find like, talking to people and figuring out how they do it is just as important at times,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Sometimes people send you on, you know, say that this is how to do it and it's completely wrong,
yeah.
you know. But yeah, I
But
think it's just sharing information, isn't it?
it
You
works
know.
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't mean to say I don't want to listen to what people say.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't try to copy what someone said because someone said it. Is what I listen
Yeah.
to it. Will collectively take all the information I can with
Mm,
a high emphasis on nature, and
yeah.
then I make my own adjustments. I mean, even someone's failures. Me and Jay say it all the time, but someone's failures are potentially the biggest lessons we'll have. It's
Yeah. I think you
So
learn more from your failures than you do for your success.
exactly.
So much
Now,
more.
so when you're getting into cyrtodactylus, what were some of the failures that you learned that help you be a little bit better in the future?
Um, Temperature was a big thing for us. So like in the winter time, we tried dropping them to 18 degrees, and that's killed them. So we
Okay.
we
Yeah.
learned that you got to keep the you haven't really got to give them like a brumation kind of period. 22, 24 degrees. You know,
Yeah.
some females will still lay eggs, that
Mm.
kind of thing. Um, yeah, we learnt with like the nebosias, like I said about the ventilation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we found anyway. Um, and yeah, and like the trideus as well. Like they like to have hides a lot of the time. Like they like to be like really crammed in tight spaces. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
so quite often you'll see like you'll pick up a pot and there's like two or three all crammed up together. I think they just feel safe in that kind of atmosphere, really. And I learned as well that the trideus can jump vertically up 3 inches as well, as I've lost one before, and it's gone.
that's cool.
So I had it,
Nice.
I had
I
it in the
like that.
tub when I was feeding it, and I looked at it. Now, like with crested gecko, you can see when its legs go behind, and you think, "Oh, it's going to jump." This thing just was standing there normal, and it just leapt up about 3 inches out the container and just disappeared off. And I was like, "Oh no!"
Thank you.
I rummaged around the room and I couldn't find it, so it's
Oh
somewhere.
man. Oh man. That that
But they
hurts.
can jump. You won't read that. You won't read that they can jump vertically up.
That's cool.
But
Uh, so what was I gonna say? Do you usually ship out do you ship out to the US or anything, or are you strictly just UK?
Uh, yeah, we do. We do UK, we do Europe, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, we do the US.
Okay.
Um,
Because I might be reaching out to you about some of those triers. Those are I like the starry back that they have. That's really awesome.
yeah, I mean they are a cool species for
Yeah.
sure. I don't know if you saw in some of the posts, but the babies are completely jet black.
Yeah.
Um, and that takes about 6 months, 7 months to fully mature into the spots.
Wow.
Right there.
Huh.
Yeah, and they're I had to edit that photo quite a bit actually because otherwise it just looked like a black thing at the bottom. So now you got to edit it so you can actually see what it is.
Yeah.
But
So is this vermiculite, is that dry or is that moistened?
that would be dry. So how we do
Okay.
because they're quite fast to try this, they're like quite
Hmm.
squirmy.
Hmm.
If you keep eggs together, they like roll the other eggs.
Yeah.
Um, so we keep them all separate.
Okay.
And for the other species, I just kind of keep them all together in one tub, you know.
Okay.
But for them, we separate them out purely for that reason. But yeah, so that's
Yeah.
just like dry vermiculite, and then we'll have in the center of the tub, we'll have like you weigh out your medium of like I think we do it 40-60, so 40% humidity, 40% water, sorry, 60% vermiculite.
Okay.
Um,
And and then what's in the cap? What is this? It's just some peat moss?
yeah, it's just whatever's at the tub. So I found sand's
Okay.
the best for it.
Okay.
But
All right.
we're going to move on to sharp sand.
Okay.
I've concluded that with geckos, because they wiggle the eggs, unlike the other species, the Trideus, the eggs wiggle quite a bit,
Uh-huh.
and like as they're like growing, developing, and what happens is they roll, and because you know you've got the air sac, haven't you? They
Hmm.
kill themselves in the egg because they roll too much.
Okay.
So we found that sharp sand, using sharp sand because it's more heavier than play sand, that
Okay.
holds the egg better. And you got to completely bury the egg as well, so it stops them from rolling around. So I don't know
Okay.
in the wild how it all happens, but I guess because they bury the egg so deep, it must be in some substrate that's quite firm that
Yeah.
stops the eggs from rolling around.
Yeah. Because you
Um,
said they will, if you give them 6 inches, they're going all the way down to that 6 inches to bear the eggs, right?
yeah, I reckon
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
So I think
Yeah.
in the wild the substrate the eggs are laid in are quite a dense.
That's
It's not like
okay.
peat that's
Gotcha.
loose. It's definitely
Yeah.
like damp sand or something like that.
Okay. That makes
Um,
sense.
but yeah,
That-
I mean they're a cool species. And yeah, as they get older as well, I forgot to mention they go from like dark blacky with the white spots, and they go like light brown as they get older.
mhm. Okay.
Was just like a maturity thing, I
Yeah.
guess.
How big do they get when they're fully mature?
Probably that big. Um,
Okay. Not
so
bad.
that's like
Okay.
what?
Probably like my ciliaris or something.
Yeah, so like 50 mil, 50, 75 mil, like snout to vent
Okay.
length. So
Yeah.
yeah, but their tails are quite thick as well. Like out of all the species we keep, they got quite a thick tail, really.
Okay.
Um, not like a like leopard gecko tail, but you know, it's a
Yeah.
thicker than the Ahunga tail or than a Bosia. You know,
Gotcha.
Hmm. What is
Yeah.
but
this?
It,
What is that? Looks like a baby Chihuahua.
it is.
yeah, that's
You deal with chihuahuas as well?
I used to,
Used
not
to?
anymore.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Oh, Chihuahua?
Yeah.
pardon?
That is a Chihuahua on the screen?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sitting here like, damn, that thing looks like a baby Chihuahua. What is that?
Yeah. No, we
um.
just the Chihuahua is with all the calcium that you need to give with them. It's
He's cool, man. Look at the pattern on that dude, man. Wow.
yeah. I think I was listening to one of your podcasts before about when you talk about Chihuahua in the UK, and
Yeah.
I think that the problem is, like that one, he was pretty, but I couldn't tell you if that was a mainland or Pine Island. I think they're all mixed up.
Yeah.
So the ones we had, you could say they had white collars and they looked, no one really knew when we kept them. So, but now they've been distinguished a lot
From the
more.
UK, the ones I've seen, they're totally different, but they're the same. Like over there, they have their own. Like they got mainlands that have like pastel Pine Island looks with the pastels and the greens and the collars, and you're like, what? But then they'll have big eyes, and they're like, that's a mainland. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
totally different. And I get how, when they came in, there were small numbers. Certain collections went there, certain collections came here. There wasn't much information on mainlands and Pine Islands, and they just bred, and those bloodlines in the UK developed to what they did, and the bloodlines over here developed what they did. It's like a mini evolution process, if you will. Like it's
Yeah.
I can see it in my head more than I can explain it, but very interesting.
Yeah.
That interesting Chihuahua right there. That back pattern is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as well, like, I think more now with them, there are a few people who are really like distinguishing within Pine Islands and mainland forms. What's really good, but there is still quite a lot of stuff floating around where you don't quite know what it is.
Yeah. You just gotta find those reputable people.
They're doing it here too, though. We talked
Yeah.
in the podcast. I seen somebody they're posting advertising no locale specific Chihuahuas. I'm like, well, you're flat out just saying that they're crossed. I mean, that's what you're saying.
Mm.
Yeah. So that is the Nebulosus right there. Right?
Yeah. So that's a baby one.
Yeah.
It's
yeah. So what is the sexual mature? So how long do you wait for your adults before you start pairing them up? What's the age that you usually pair them up at?
I think some people would say yeah, but I would say until they start laying eggs that look good, then that's when I pair them up. So like the Ahunga, that can take. I mean, they start laying eggs at like 9 months, but I leave them at least a year, if not a year and a half, before I start to breed them. Because I think with any gecko, if you breed them too young, it affects them long term.
Yeah,
it's like long term breeding. Yeah.
So essentially they're almost like a Pictus gecko, like you said, where like some people breed their Pictus geckos like 9 months because they reproduce like crazy. So all right, so I can understand that one, but always wait until they start dropping those duds.
Yeah, so like about a year and a half, I would say with any of them. I think the Trideus though, I can't say for the Descanthus to be honest. They take like 2.5, nearly 3 years to sexually mature.
Okay.
But that's not. I haven't proven that. Like because I've bought them from people and then I've bred them, but I've not hatched the babies yet and bred them up yet. But with the Trideus, they do take 2 years at least before they get sexually mature.
Okay.
But the first 2 years of breeding, you get like 1 or 2 eggs, and then they have like 2 years of doing like 2, maybe 3 clutches, and then it drops back off again.
Okay.
So a bit like a mossy gecko. They're not like some years they have good years, other years they don't.
Yeah.
But I think that's down to the males, and you got to swap the males around.
I know my first year breeders for my Chihuahuas, it was like they would lay one good set, one bad set, good set, bad set. And then now, well, I mean, even this year, I mean, she laid probably good set, half a bad set, and then now it's looking like a good set on her next one that she already dropped. So, and then with the new pair that I did this year, it looks like she's dropping she's dropped 2 successfully good collections already, but she dropped like around, like I said, about the age of like 9 months for her. She dropped her first duds.
Oh
and
yeah.
then she dropped another dud probably when she was about a year old, and then another dud probably around like the year and a half mark. So I'm thinking she's really good to go, and that's why her clutches are now, they're good, and no,
Yeah.
I'm not getting any duds from her.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you use critical care?
critical care.
Yeah, have you
What?
heard of that?
No,
Zoomed
no,
critical care? That
no,
is
no.
that is like cocaine for geckos, that is. That's what
What is that?
it's Zoomed do it. It's called critical care. And it's like we found it with the mossy geckos, it was really good. So it kind of stimulates eating
Okay.
and like food. So if you've got like, and we use it with most of our geckos, if they've got like a calcium deficiency, or you can see that their eggs are a bit thin or whatever, you use your critical care, mix it in with like some like liquid calcium, and because it like stimulates them to eat, it kind of encourages them, because calcium's really bitter, isn't it, for geckos
Hmm.
to taste, so it makes it more palatable and stuff. um so I recommend it. It's called critical care. I think Zoomed do it, or um
Yeah, can you send me the link to that when you get a chance later on?
yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Or
like,
they make another
Uh,
one like carnivore something care. It's like a paste in a tube, and you almost squeeze it out, and it's
oh
like
yeah,
calcium loaded. It ignites their feeding response and stuff.
yeah, no,
I
it's
know what you're talking about. I've seen a few different ones. When I back in the day when I had big lizards and stuff, I would occasionally have to use it. You know, something will lose its appetite. You put this in front of it, it turns them into a different animal. They just go
yeah.
ravenous and stuff.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I mean, we don't use it all the time, only
Mm.
when needed.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah,
but
yeah. Do you keep anything else besides geckos, or is it just all geckos for you guys?
just all geckos.
Yeah. Well,
I
same
think
here.
like me and my dad are both scared of snakes, so oh, we keep a tortoise. My mum keeps a tortoise actually.
Cool.
Um,
Cool. What kind?
uh, I don't know. She's that old. I can't actually remember. um, oh, I can't remember. No, the ones from Russia. I can't remember the Latin what they're
Oh, the
called.
Russian the Russian tortoise.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Not the Horsefield. The other ones, isn't it? Horse. I can't remember the Latin. They're from
Oh,
Russia, aren't they? Or like the
like a
Mediterranean, that kind of area.
Herman's tortoise or something like that.
Herman's, that's the one. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And they stay
That's,
pretty small, right?
yeah, yeah. They're not.
Yeah.
She's not huge, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I
That's
know
my mum's tortoise.
we usually tell people, like, instead of getting a sulcata, why don't you get like a Herman's tortoise or something, because they stay small. Like when people buy their sulcatas, they're like this big, right? All tiny, they look cute, and then people don't tell them that, hey, that thing's gonna get as big as your truck tire, and it makes you, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. Now I need to. Now then you see those posts of, due to unfortunate circumstances, I can't take care of this animal anymore. It's like,
Mm.
well, do that research, get a Herman's tortoise or something small, or like a redfoot. You're not
Yeah.
gonna have to worry about that,
Time you
because
see
it's,
one, let me know because I want a sulcata so bad it's not even funny.
dude, they're like $40 everywhere.
For where? Out here, they're
Everywhere.
about $400 out here. Last pet shop, the kid Vinny in the pet shop got one up in New Haven, $400. I'm
No, those things are $40. Yeah,
dang,
I can get you one right now at one of these shops.
dude, I'm dead serious. Let me know. My wife wants one.
Okay. Uh, in your local area, how many do you guys have a good amount of reptile shops, or do you guys have to really make a good drive to go somewhere for a decent one?
Um. To be honest, I think we like don't. There's one probably about an hour from us, like a fairly decent one.
Damn.
But I think because the hobby in the UK is um, what's the right word? It's growing. So I
Uh-huh.
think that reptile shops, when they open, they really struggle.
Okay.
So I think that reptile shops that are like established seem to do really well. But there was quite, I think there was like two or three that opened around us. but they never like independent ones, and they never quite seem to carry the weight of something that's been there a long time. You know,
Okay.
like you get pets at home here. What they do, like dogs, cats, and rabbits, and and
Yeah.
they have like leopard geckos and crested geckos in there. But to be honest, like we don't really do shops. We kind of just do our like live order shopping
Okay.
online, and then just do
Gotcha.
the reptile
Yeah.
shows.
Nice.
And I think as well, like we just go and see our friends and their collection. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
for us. What's the big thing? It's in other people's collections and how they do stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
That's always
Um,
good too, because then you get to get a different perspective on keeping. Like, what are you doing a little bit
yeah,
different than I'm not doing? What's successful for you? What's not for me? And then you're collaborating, and
yeah.
that's what I hope to start doing. Because I said we had someone on, probably was like our third episode, Kyle. Like, I'm probably gonna go try to go see his new place this summer because he just moved in.
Oh
And
yeah,
so he's like, I got a bigger place now. So yeah, you come over and we could do a whole YouTube video and look at his whole collection because he does a lot of the Aussie stuff. He does like he's getting back into crested geckos now. He chihuahuas, but he has some really nice stuff. He has like Diplodactylus. He has Lucasium. Uh, he has Salabrosis. I don't think
yeah,
he has M. Nicola, but then he has some Stropharis as well. I was like, dude,
yeah.
I want to show this off to everybody. Yeah,
That sounds cool, man.
yeah,
And I think as well, like you pick up on like little things. Like I remember we once went to someone's house and they were using um like a different size container. So like knowing you can put like a damp hide in your thing,
hmm,
and they were using this container, and I don't know where he got it from, but no, like when you get containers, they're always too small, too big. He managed to find the perfect ones that we
yeah,
wanted, and we're like, "Where'd you get them from? We're buying, you know."
yeah,
And you just pick up so many little tricks of like how people do stuff, you know. Like for
yeah,
ages, we used to keep our crested geckos with glass dishes. You put the puree in there, and you had to like wash it up, you know. Where like we went round a friend's house and he just used like old milk bottle lids.
yeah,
Yeah, and you're
yep.
like, oh, that is how to do it. Once it's done, you throw it away.
Yeah. I mean, I still wash all my bottle caps now because I mean, when my kids are here, I have so many half drinking water bottles. So I just take
Oh
all the
yeah,
caps off of those, and then I'll get all those waters, pour them into my humidifier, take the bottle caps, put them in my little Ziploc bag, and then I give them to the geckos. And after that, I wash them off, just boom, 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 and whatever doesn't come off those, whatever gunk doesn't come off, yeah, then I'll toss those. But
You guys ever
try to
try these silicone bottle caps?
Yeah,
Like
well, I got some. I got the Pangea ones,
the
but I'm
stuff
going to order those ones. Yeah.
falls right out. You pop them inside out, the food just falls right out.
Oh yeah. Okay.
They're
Yeah.
just silicone bottle caps. I mean, you get 108 of them for $25.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually,
oh,
because I'm gonna order some of those too. Because like I said, I got the show coming up, and I'm gonna sell like $3 for $5 or something like that.
There you
No.
go.
Yeah.
There you
Just
they
put them
do is
in little
kill it.
baggies. Yep.
nice.
Yeah. Oh man. So like I said, we're coming up on the end. We're at like an hour and a half now. Let me
Oh,
ask you something. If anybody wanted to get into Cyrtodactylus, right? What would you think would be the first species they should go ahead and get into from like a good beginner one, and then maybe what would be the more advanced one for people that have been keeping different kind of geckos for a while?
Um, I'd say the best like for the beginners, Johanna. I'd say because they are pretty indestructible. I'd say. Um, just purely for like temperament wise and how their behaviour, that is probably it. And they're quite sturdy with the temperatures, you know.
Yeah.
Um, like the hot temperatures anyway. If your room's got a hot room, they can take it up to like 32.
Okay.
Like peaks. I'd say the probably more harder species to keep are, I'd say Decantus, really. They're a bit more harder.
Okay.
And then I would also say Trideus because especially in Europe and the UK, there's really not many people working with them.
Yeah.
So they are a little bit more specialist in that sense, you know. The people who we kind of sell them to, we kind of want them going to a good home, you know.
Nice.
So I always think like start off with species like your hunger, like the Nabosia kind of things, and that
Yeah.
like once you can wrap your head around how to do them kind of things, which sounds like you're doing, Jason, you know, it's they're the ones to move into next kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. And I said I always see like the ones I always see a lot of, and I mean they're always wild caught, are the Cyrtodactylus giensis,
Yeah.
the giant ones. I was like, eventually I'm gonna get those, but not right now. I'd probably need a little more time with other Cyrtodactyls before I get into those. But those are on my list to get. I like large geckos, and that one is a very large gecko with very big claws. Uh, so it's something that I will, yeah, it's just something I'm attracted to. I don't know why it is. I like brown geckos, brown, black, oranges, and those,
They're
like most of
fast.
them do. Yeah.
Yeah, and they glue
Yeah.
their eggs as well.
Oh, God damn. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's okay. I'm still going to try to get them. I
They
mean,
are
like
good
I said,
species though. They are, I've
yeah,
heard they're quite like interactive.
yeah, yeah. I'm just, when I see them gape that mouth, I'm like, oh man, that's going to be painful. But
Yeah.
I think probably the claws will probably hurt more than their mouth, but we'll see. But so where can everybody find you, Jake?
Um yeah, so Instagram, we're on the Instagram, it's Just Geckos. And we also have a Facebook page. That's Just Geckos as well. Um Facebook pages, that's kind of got our history a lot more because that's quite, you know, my dad done that when we first kind of started out in the hobby.
Okay.
But the Instagram, that's kind of a new thing that I've kind of done.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and in the
Awesome.
UK, yeah,
All right, man. Well, I definitely appreciate this, man. Like I said, you know, there's so many different species out there that people don't know about, and hearing folks like you talk about them, I I hope that it helps people get that courage to go ahead and try something different. And like this, no, keep crescent geckos fine, but spread out. No, what's after a crescent gecko in like the arboreal world? That would be like trying to get like some Urodactyloides or something, or you go the Aussie route, or you go the Euryplatus route, um,
yeah,
or you try to find something different like a Hemidactylus, uh, which yeah, I love these Hemidactylus. Like I said, you kind of helped me out, with, saying, all right, I definitely want to get into it because you have that same duality as a Peridor Picta, uh, and so that should encourage more people. Like, well, you can't really go wrong on how you're going to keep them because they can take both weather temperaments.
yeah,
So, but it's definitely been a good conversation with you, man.
yeah. I've really enjoyed it. It's been
Yeah.
nice chatting.
All
Definitely
right.
appreciate you coming on, man. I don't think you seem very humble. I don't think you realize what this just did for the hobby. You have a collection that's so admirable, man, and inspirational that I genuinely believe that keepers like you and your father and pages like this, I mean, you deserve so much credit and acknowledgement. I mean, this is it's been honestly, it's been a real pleasure and a learning lesson. I'm not going to say that I can pronounce any of these names of these geckos in Latin, but it's amazing to see that they're out there. It was amazing to hear how simple some of them are to keep, to see the differences in their courting styles and breeding styles and egg laying habits and egg hatching habits and you know geographical locations and differences. I mean, it's this has been an absolute learning experience for me, man, and I'll never forget this. And I really can't put into words how much I appreciate it, Jake. I mean, this is a real pleasure having you on here, and I'd honestly like to put you on the list of guys we do ask to come back, and that hasn't been everybody. Not to say anything about our other guests, but I mean, you have so much to offer that we can literally have conversations for another 4 hours and learn so much more, man. I can't thank you enough, dude. Honestly, it's This has been an incredible podcast, man. An incredible interview.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll try to get my dad along. He's not the most technological person, but
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
he,
we'd like to get both of you guys on, and
Uh,
so both of you guys, because like
yeah,
I said, that whole family dynamic, that's really interesting to me as well. I said I really want to get my kids on to do this, but they're like always hit or miss. Like my youngest, he likes plants, he likes geology. He's kind of in this whole rocks, quartz, gems uh, phase right now.
yeah.
But I think the plants will help them get into animals a little bit more. So that's what I'm
Yeah,
hoping for. But definitely would
hopefully.
like to have you on to talk about do a Chondrodactylus episode or a Pachyodactylus episode, because like I said, anything that ends with Actylus, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have to admit, I mean, it was my dad, he's the one that kind of kept the passion going with us all, and he is the brains behind the operation, he's been doing this since he was a kid, you know.
Right.
come on our behalf. Make sure I hope he knows we appreciate him. We appreciate
Yeah.
what he did for you, what he's ultimately done for hundreds of people now. I mean, it's thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, cheers.
All right.
I'll let him know.
All right.
Do.
Appreciate that.
Please.
So, all right. Well, definitely have a good night, Jake. So we'll talk a little bit later. I said, don't forget to
Yeah.
send me that link, because that's something I could probably use as well. Okay.
Yeah, lovely. Well, you guys
Um,
enjoy, and I'll see you soon.
all right. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.